So I'm pretty sure everyone has told you to just be yourself. Post consistently, use trending audio, smile more, be relatable. And yet here you are, still invisible. The accounts blowing up right now, they didn't follow those rules. In fact, they broke every single one of them. And I'm going to show you exactly how, and more importantly, why it works on a psychological level that most brand gurus don't even know exists. I'm Chinopa, and in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to dismantle every boring piece of advice you've ever received about building a personal brand and replicate it with something that actually works. Something that triggers a primal psychological response in your audience that makes them unable to look away. Because many of you keep on uploading videos that are like, 10 to 20 minutes long, but they only get 3 views or 10 views. And I'm going to roughly explain why that's the case. But firstly, I need to ask you something uncomfortable. Subscribe. Okay, not that, but like, why do you actually want to build a personal brand? I'll wait. Was your first answer money, freedom, influence? I mean, those are fine. But why do you feel like you need to make a change, though? I want you to go deeper. Because here's what I've noticed after studying hundreds of creators who've made it and thousands of people who've like never reached actual utopia. So the thing is this, there's a psychological concept called the ideal self gap, the distance between who you are right now and who you desperately want to be. Every human being on earth carries the gap. It also creates a low grade anxiety that never quite goes away. Most people try to close that gap through consumption, buying things, watching videos, taking courses. You know those courses. But the people who build magnetic personal brands, they weaponize that gap. They point directly at it. They say, I see your gap. I lived in that gap and I found a way out. That's what makes a personal brand magnetic. Not aesthetics, not a niche, not consistency. It's the willingness to say the things that your audience hasn't been able to really think for themselves. So let me talk about like why normal brands fail. Let me tell you about the trap, the one that kills 97% of personal brands before they ever take off. It's called the likability trap, and it looks like this. You start posting, you try to be helpful, you try to be polished, you try to be professional. You smooth out your edges, soften your opinions, avoid anything that's offensive. And your content becomes beige. A concept in psychology called the mere exposure effect. Humans tend to like things more the more they see them. But here's a catch. That only works if the thing they're seeing actually registers in the first place. Our brains are wired for survival, not scrolling. The average human brain processes 11 million bits of information per second. We consciously process about 40. That means your content has to fight through 10 million competing signals just to make someone stop their thumb. Here's the psychological reality. People don't remember how you made them feel good. They remember how you made them feel understood. Those are completely different things. You know, a motivational post makes someone feel good for 30 seconds. A post that accurately describes the specific shame they feel at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, that one they screenshot, that one they send to their best friend with, "This is literally me," is the best thing you can actually process whenever you're creating the personal brand. And that's the difference between a brand people enjoy and a brand people need, if that makes sense. So the abnormalities of personal branding is like, what does an abnormal personal brand actually look like? Let me break this down into 4 psychological levers. Lever 1, the polarizing anchor. The most magnetic personal brands don't try to appeal to everyone. They actively repel some people. They just do. And this sounds counterintuitive until you understand the psychology of in-group identity. When a brand repels certain types of people, it signals to your ideal audience, this person is for US, not for everyone. For US, and that feeling of belonging to a chosen group is one of the most powerful forces in human motivation. Think about it. The creators you're obsessed with, they almost certainly have haters. Not because they're doing something wrong, because they're doing something right. They've stalked a claim on a belief, a worldview, an identity that attracts their tribe by its very nature of excluding everyone else. What do you actually believe that most people in your space won't say out loud? That's your polarizing anchor. I want you to water it and let it grow. Level 2, the vulnerability paradox. Here's something that sounds wrong, but is psychologically proven. Showing your weakness makes you more powerful, not less. This is called the pratfall effect. Studies show that people who demonstrate competence and acknowledge flaws are rated as significantly more likable and trustworthy than those who appear perfect. You know, we are wired, we are basically wired to distrust perfection. Perfectly polished content triggers our BS detector. But someone who says, I built a 6-figure business and almost lost my marriage in the process, that person feels real. And the real is rare. Real is magnetic. They go hand in hand together. The key is strategic vulnerability, not trauma dumping, not oversharing for shock value, but selectively revealing the human cost behind the highlight reel. The question isn't how much I share. The question is, what truth about my journey do I wish someone had been honest with me about? That's what you should share. So let me talk about the specificity spike. This is level 3. This is the third thing. Vague content creates vague connections. Specific content creates obsession. Compare these 2 statements. I struggled with self doubt before I found success, versus For 3 years, I deleted my Instagram every night and re-uploaded it Monday morning because I couldn't decide if I was embarrassed of myself. I want you to look at those two things. The second one hits differently, even if the specific platform isn't the same for your audience. The specific behavior, that cycle of wanting to disappear and then coming back, that is universal. The fourth thing, level four, the enemy reframe is what I want to discuss. Every great brand has a villain, not a person, a system, a belief, a way of doing things that's been holding your audience back. Humans are story wired. Joseph Campbell's hero's journey exists in every culture in history because it maps directly into how our brains process meaning. And every hero's journey requires an adversity. Your audience is a hero, you are the guide, and the villain, it might be corporate culture. It might be the traditional education system or the financial advice the parents gave them, or the diet industry, or the algorithmic interest. Name it, give it a face, and then position your brand as the alternative. This isn't manipulation, it's storytelling. It's helping your audience understand why they've been struggling by giving their frustration a target and a name, if that makes sense. So, the last thing that I kind of want to talk about is the overnight millionaire myth and the real truth behind it. I want to pause here and address something because the title of this video says overnight, and I need to be honest with you about that. There's a reason that phrase grabbed your attention. It's not because you're naive, it's because the human brain is hardwired to seek shortcuts, right? It's very hardwired to seek shortcuts to status and security. That wiring kept our ancestors alive. It's not a flaw, it's evolution. Water break. The Sun is my favorite brand. Sponsor me, please. But here's what overnight success actually looks like in every case study I've ever examined. 7 years of invisible work, followed by one moment that looks sudden from the outside. The magnetic personal brand I'm describing, it doesn't shortcut the work, it shortcuts the confusion. Instead of spending 3 years posting the wrong things to the wrong people in the wrong way, you start from a place of genuine psychological understanding of your audience and for yourself. There's so many things that I can describe about making a personal brand. I'm going to leave everything in the description. You need to follow exact ways on how to actually build it. And I've left the video in the description. Hopefully you subscribe and like in this video. I genuinely love you guys, and I will see you soon.